This is Tino with Bluesy News, and we're at the fabulous Mint in West Los Angeles with an extreme legend, Kim Simmonds. 50 years.
Yeah, it has been 50 years. I was in denial for the longest time because you think that that kind of career belongs to others, you know, and then maybe last year it suddenly hit me that I did start that long ago. One of the first of the, the blues guys in at that time period. So suddenly I realized, oh, I am one of the others, you know. And so it was a bit of a surprise to me because I tend to try to minimize the past and stay in the present, you know, and try to stay that way, because if you live too much in the past, you can suffer twice. I try to stay in the present.
So 50 years later, are you still learning?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Really?
You know, I'm still learning guitar licks. I'm still creating. You know, and I think that that's why I'm doing it, is to stay creative, and it's a challenge. I like being on the front line. I like playing in places like the Mint, where like today I was at the front and had an impromptu meet and greet with everybody, you know, and talking to people about music, about Savoy Brown,
Sure.
about, you know, I've got the energy for it, I've got the health, so I'm blessed in that regard, and I like being in the trenches. You know, I like playing in clubs. I always have done. You know, and I find that is where I can. You know, some of the magic is going to happen. You know, sometimes on the larger stages, it's a blast to play the larger stages, but in the smaller venues, you know, you're eyeball to eyeball. You've got people that come because they're paying, you know, just a ticket to come and see you play. It's a commitment from the audience, emotion, money, you know, and so they've invested a lot, you know, when they come to see you play at a venue like tonight, and I've invested that same amount of passion into my music. So, you know, that's why I've always enjoyed playing the clubs, and have pretty much made that my focus for a lot of years now.
Yeah, Savoy Brown being one of the hardest working bands in music.
Yeah, well, that was the case, you know, years ago.
You slowed down.
I have. Well, of course, your career slows down when you get older, and I embraced that. You know, I didn't let it worry me. I think that's the cadence of your life, you know, and things do slow down. And I embraced it and said, hey, this is fun, because now I can concentrate and put 100% into each show. And not be, it doesn't concern me if I'm out of the public eye. It doesn't concern me that people might forget me. It doesn't concern me. None of those things concern me. Luckily, I've kept an audience, even though I've approached it a little bit differently, you know. And if you would have told me, I think it took me till I was in my 40s, and even then, I really didn't think my career would keep going. You know, it wasn't until way later in life I realized, oh, I am going to do this, you know, for the rest of my life. But for the longest time,
so you didn't realize your importance till much later?
Well, I think absolutely, and I think I think that is naive of me, but I've kind of held on to that naivety. And I think that's been an important part of what makes me tick, you know. But having said that, I've heard other people say the same thing. So it's not just my own ego here. I think a lot of musicians and people, it takes you by surprise when your career just rolls on and rolls on.
Interesting. 30 albums. A
Right.
catalog of 30.
Oh, at
Wow.
least, yeah.
At least.
Yeah. The last release was Go Into the Delta in 2014. Yeah, and it did well. It got onto the Billboard Blues charts, and we did very, very well with it. So the ball rolls on, and we have another studio album coming out in September on Roof Records. So I have a relationship with Roof Records, and I think we're going to stick together now for hopefully for the rest of my career.
So you still stay in that studio? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
After 50 years, how does it stay fresh?
Well, I'm lucky. You know, I've got a wonderful wife, over 20 years. I've got great support people around me. They enable me to concentrate on the music, you know. I have a great supportive band. I have business people that support me. I think without them, I couldn't do it, to tell the truth.
So you're a team.
I think even without my wife, I couldn't do it. So, yeah, there's a team around me that appreciate my talent, that are on my side. And, I think that goes back to when I started as a kid. You know, my parents were very supportive. Without that, I wouldn't be playing now, for sure.
Now, Savoy Brown's been known to be a very fertile breeding ground of many, many musicians.
Right.
Who haven't you still worked with that you would still like to work with?
Oh, you're kidding me? Oh, no. I mean, what happened with me, I started when I was 16, 17 as a professional with Savoy Brown. And my peers, Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, these kind of people, were 20 years old. At that age, of course, there's a wide gap. So I still have, I was a Rolling Stones fan, of course, when I was 15 years old. I bought their first records, saw them play, their first shows. I'm a big fan of the Yardbirds. So I've played with all the blues greats and met the blues greats. Never played with Eric Clapton, although I've done shows together. Never met or played with Keith Richards or Mick Jagger. So, these are the iconic stars from my time period that were just a little bit older than me, and we never crossed paths. So, those are the kind of people that I still admire and would like to play with.
Nice, and they haven't retired, so there's still an opportunity.
Yeah, they're still giving me inspiration. Yeah.
That's nice. The Flying Vee.
The Flying Vee. Okay. My first professional instrument was a Telecaster, Fender Telecaster, and I played that through a Vox AC30 amp. And then I played a succession of Gibsons, and eventually one day I went into a music store in London, 1967, and I saw the Flying Vee. And I said, I'd like that Flying Vee. And the person said, well, Peter Green wants that Flying Vee. And I said, well, has he put a deposit on it? And they said, no. So I said, okay. I put 20 pounds on it.
Oh, my God.
Went away, got the money, came back and bought the guitar.
Wow.
And I wanted the Flying Vee because, Lonnie Mack played the Flying Vee. I was a huge Lonnie Mack fan. And, of course, Albert King. And also I wanted a guitar at the time that wasn't conventional. And I didn't want to. There's always, whether you're a musician or what have you, there's always the society thing about convention, and everybody kind of wants to be conventional. And back then, it's sort of conventional to play a real guitar, with F holes or what guitar. And I think the Flying Vee was the furthest thing from a conventional guitar. So I liked that aspect. I played that for the longest time. I got a great sound out of it. I don't know what happened to that guitar in the course of 50 years. I emigrated to America, moved houses lots and lots of times. So that guitar from here is in Japan with a collector. I eventually replaced that with a couple of other Flying Vees. And it's a guitar I keep coming back to. Right now I play a Les Paul, So I think I was one of the first people in England to play the Flying Vee. So some people remember that and associate me with it. But it is. I have an affinity with the guitar. I have two at home. Occasionally I'll revisit the past and I'll bring it out and play it.
You mentioned the Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds. As you were growing up in England, how did American blues grab you? What was your introduction to?
Well, I had an older brother that was the same age as the Stones and everybody. So, as I said, they were 3-4 years older than me. And so he introduced me in the 1950s to rock and roll and take me to see all the shows. So I got a really good ground in rock and roll and early pop music. So I grew up with him. We became big buddies, music fans together. I learned a lot from him. When I got to about 14 years old, I started buying my own records and building up my own collection. Got my start from my brother.
Was he also a musician?
No, he wasn't, no. But at that time, maybe 62, 63, a lot of the American blues artists were coming over for the first time to tour, those famous blues festivals. So I would get to see them on TV, or I would get to see them at the clubs. They would do the festivals, but also play clubs. So I saw Jimmy Reed, Howlin' Wolf, people like this. I was very fortunate to be able to see the greats, and also see the Yardbirds and the Stones and that. So, it was pretty easy for me, to tell the truth, because I already knew the music through my brother. And I also had people that I could go to the clubs to see, play. And I could see the real deal guys like Howlin' Wolf. So it was a very fortunate time to be around in London, and the music was there. So I already loved it. I already grew up on it. I had role models, in front of me. I had it made in that respect.
And then in turn you became one of those greats.
Well, in turn, I came out of the box running. I was quite a precocious guitar player when I was young. I made my own mark. But I think looking back, and I've suddenly realized it. You know, you always feel like the younger guy, you know, because I was the younger guy at the time. I made my own mark. I try not to fixate on that, because the past can be a very heavy burden to carry, you know. And I think it goes with everybody. It's very... The older you get, the more you find that portions of your life, you think to yourself, well, surely somebody else lived that. You know, you can't... It's hard to believe that you actually lived it,
right.
You know, because it was a different time, a different place. We all change. You don't even recognize yourself, you know, from when you were a 19-year-old. So it's sort of odd to get to the situation where I'm at now, and at the same time, it's a very beautiful thing.
And I think something beautiful that I've learned from you today is, from your childhood on, you've always had a support system.
Right.
That I think maybe is the prescription to...
I really think it is, you know. I mean, over 50 years, there are times I could have been down and out, as simple as that. You know, your career stalls, you make bad mistakes, business-wise, personal-wise. Goes with everybody's life, probably. And I think that having that support behind you, you know, keeps you going. And then it's really up to you to also work at it. You know, it doesn't matter how strong
of course.
Your support team is.
Right.
You know, you've got to have that. You know, that something's got a spark in you to keep you going. And but undoubtedly, the support team is the key. You know, my brother became my manager as well when I was younger. So from being the fans together, I put Savoy Brown together. He was my best friend, and I asked him to manage the band. So right from the beginning, you know, there was another very important part of the mix. Again, it certainly hasn't been an easy ride, but whenever it got hard, I seem to have had somebody there in my corner.
Oh, what a blessing! Did you start off as a guitarist?
Right.
Also, did you play the harp from day one?
I played the harp pretty much from day one. I had a harmonica player in the band right from the start, John O'Leary. He actually formed the band with me, and then he left very early on. But so the harmonica was always, you know, my mother's favorite instrument was the harmonica.
Nice.
Believe it or not. And so you know, there's something there. I always loved the harmonica. Always played it. And it's only in recent years that I feel that I've built up my own voice with the instrument, you know, because I didn't want to play the cliches. I just didn't, because I wasn't good, you know, I wasn't as good as the people that can play the cliches. And but I've kept at it, kept playing at it, you know, at home, and because I love the instrument. And then really, I was saying the last few years, I've really developed my own style with it.
Nice. I think they're kicking us out.